Hello everyone, Stakuya here,
And I'm Gabby.
and we are the hosts of the History of Everything podcast.
And the question of today is, why was Roman wine laced with lead?
Well, see, that's just it. There are thousands of different types of wine, each with their own kind of unique flavor, aroma, history, basically anything that makes them special. And for people of the ancient world, this was doubly more important as wine was in many societies a status symbol, one that in others like the Greeks and the Romans, it was the most basic symbol of being a human. Beer was for the lowly barbarians. Wine was what made you civilized. And the sweeter and more tasty the wine, the more valuable that it was. It was a drink that was fit for only the highest of society. Well, we say for the highest of society, but basically everyone had to drink it. Everyone wanted it in Greek and Roman society. The Romans, they desired heavily flavored foods and drink, but they lacked many different kinds of sweetening agents. You see, you had honey. Honey worked, but oftentimes it would require a very large amount of honey, and that was hard to get. Grapes, however, were plentiful 2,000 years ago in Rome. Because you see, Roman winemakers found that the boiling of unfermented grape juice created a kind of sweet liquid that was called defrutum, or sapa. Defrutum is created by boiling off half of the volume of wine. Sapa, even more, where you reduce it down to 1/3 the original volume of wine. The Romans used these kinds of sweeter liquids to improve the flavor of existing foods in order to preserve fruit and even preserve the food that would be given to Roman soldiers that were on the march, campaigning. The only problem was this sapa had a tendency to add lead to whatever it touched, which is not a good thing. You see, the boiling process involved long hours and high temperatures, which caused lead to leach out of the containers, inadvertently artificially sweetening the sapa.
Wait. So the lead was the sweetener?
Yes.
Not the sapa.
Nope. It was a unintended consequence.
So they made something sweet from lead.
Yeah.
So this sweet taste is due to acetic acid in the wine that is converting to its hydrolyzed form, which is acetate. Acetate ions combined with lead cations leached from the containers, and this is what formed lead acetate.
Lead acetate, also known as sugar of lead, is a salt, which I guess is ironic, as that would have a sweet flavor, which is very unusual when it comes to poisons. You see, poisons in this sense are more likely to be bitter, which signals to the person tasting them that they are unsafe for consumption. But this was deceptive. Winemakers would choose lead containers over brass ones when they noticed that the ones that used lead pots yielded a sweeter flavor. There were even these writers, these reviewers of wine, the people who were commenting about it. One called Columella, who was a Roman winemaker, who explained this away as simply a process of, the ones that were made of brass had bits of rust inside that threw off copper rust, which has a disagreeable taste.
So they were just BSing chemistry.
They were literally BSing chemistry, yes.
Which leads me to my criticism of critics. A lot of it is BS sometimes. In time, Romans learned how to make the crystalline form of lead acetate by exposing litharge, which is lead oxide, to acetic acid, which is vinegar. If allowed to solidify, lead acetate forms a clear crystal similar to glucose or table salt.
And they use this a lot, because a lead derivative is included in roughly 90 of the 450 recipes that are included in the Ubiquitous, which is a late 4th century Roman cookbook. And that is for food. The Romans would also use defrutum and sapa in order to sweeten fermented wines. A typical Roman might drink a liter of wine in a day, and in doing so, ingest up to 20 milligrams of lead in the process. And if you were rich, well, so was your diet. You were going to eat and drink a lot more of the stuff.
Lead exposure has many serious side effects. For example, long-term exposure can impair decision-making. Roman emperors and aristocrats who consumed large amounts of lead were also more likely to have conditions like gout. Multiple emperors showed signs of gout during their reign, including Claudius, Nero, Caligula, and Tiberius.
Now, similarly, these emperors were distinguished by their rather, odd behaviors, which potentially supports a diagnosis of lead poisoning. The Roman Emperor Claudius, as an example, came to power when his nephew, Caligula, perished at the hands of his enemies in 37 CE. If you don't know who this is the guy who was hiding behind a curtain when it was pulled aside. He thought he was going to die, and instead they proclaimed him as emperor.
The best possible scenario.
Yes. You see, he had disturbed speech, weaker limbs, a kind of ungainly gait. He had tremors, fits of excessive and inappropriate laughter, and also, at different times, severe anger issues and lack of control. At times, he even would slobber. Now, the descriptions of Claudius as a dull-witted and absent-minded individual could be a sign of the aristocracy's general dislike of him, or it could be a sign of lead exposure. You know, one of the many things, little things, that could lead to the downfall of an entire empire. But this has been Stakuyi and Gabby.
Thank you for listening.
And I hope that you put your comments down in the comment section below to let us know what we should answer next on the history of everything. Thanks for watching.